Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to my TBR. You can ignore these black spines up here. That's my penguin collection. We're focused on the bottom row, which as you can tell, has a few too many books in it. So we're gonna go through them. We're gonna see what I can get rid of. We're gonna see what I'm excited about. And I'm gonna pick my next read because I just finished Tchaikovsky's new book, Service Model, which I had mixed feelings about, but that's for the next video. So let's begin with this disgusting horizontal stack here. The Dream Masters, Roger Zelazny. I read Lord of Light and I wasn't a fan. I picked this up because it looked beautiful. Nebula Award winner about the human final frontier, the dreamscape, supposedly. Great concept. I'm sure I'd like it. I'm gonna keep this one. Can't keep them all. Might have to do a second pass. We'll see. We got some Lem here, the Futurological Congress. I think I said that right. Haven't read this guy yet. A few have come and gone on my TBR. I think this is the one I want to read. Based on the back here, it's very similar to Brave New World. Earth that has been made paradise for everyone, mainly through the use of hallucinogenic drugs. And I imagine he points out maybe some of the downsides to that. Very much like A World Inside, probably, by Silverberg. That's obviously staying on here. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. Been wanting to read this one for a while. I actually put this on the shelf because it's a beat-up, Will Smith edition that nobody wants. So I figured it could roll around in my backpack and get a bunch of creased pages because I didn't want to ruin this edition, but this edition is nothing special either. So this one will stay. Here we go. I can get rid of one. First one down. Oh, I can also get rid of this one because it was in a previous book haul or maybe my previous TBR video. And John over at Sci-Fi Scavenger said that this was book 2 in a series that was underwhelming anyways. So that one can go. All right, we're making some progress here. Next ugly horizontal stack. Robert Silverberg, A Time of Changes. I have a lot of Silverberg on this shelf. I think I need to get rid of a couple. What's this one about? In a world numbed of feeling, he felt deeply. In a world drained of passion, he loved fiercely. Seems a lot like that Lem that I just put on the TBR. This is gonna go on the leave pile for now. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I think I have another edition of this on here. I do. This modern library edition. This would be the one that I'm going to read. And maybe it was the same idea where I didn't want to get this all messed up. But whatever, we're beyond that. Bob Shaw, Other Days, Other Eyes. Richard over at Vintage SF read this recently. Highly recommended it. Beautiful cover art. Definitely staying on the TBR. Le Guin, Planet of Exile. No question staying on the TBR. Robert Silverberg, Hawksbill Station, another one up for debate here. A lifeless world was their prison and there was no way back. And then one day the stranger came. Sounds kind of generic. It's gonna go for now over there. Beyond the Barrier by Damon Knight. This is a guy I've been wanting to read for a while. I read one short story a long time ago. I know he's foundational. Is this the place to start? I'm not sure. I'm not feeling it right now. It's not giving me, ooh, beautiful vintage smell, but it's not speaking to me right now. Robots Have No Tails by Henry Kuttner. This is one I definitely want to read. This cover is beautiful. It's a name that is fairly obscure and I'd like to know what he's about. And I'm on a robot kick. Service Model, which I just read by Tchaikovsky, is about robots with emotions. It's kind of generic, but I'm a sucker for robots. I'm a sucker for robots in a post-apocalyptic setting, especially. I'm not sure what this is about, but I'm gonna find out. This is definitely staying. All right, we're getting somewhere. These are all keepers for now. Let's go through it. The Wind-Up Chronicle by Murakami. This just barely survived the last purging of my TBR. And I'm afraid it's not going to survive this one. I have other Murakami. I'm not in a rush to read him right now. Don't feel like getting depressed. And this one's pretty big, so it'll save a lot of space. I voted sticker. Goodbye. Palm Sunday by Vonnegut. Not even going to consider it. Galapagos by Vonnegut, not even going to consider it. I will consider this. I got 2 Philip K. Dick books here. This first one is the edition that I have a lot of, so it will go in the collection. But I know that this is just the first draft of Valis. And I read Valis, I liked Valis, but did I like it enough to read another rendition of it? Probably not. This wants to pick my face up and not the book. Come on, camera. You know what the people are here for. Part of me wants to just put it on my shelf of books that I've read because it goes in the collection and I've read Valis, so does that mean I've read this one? That's definitely not fair. So it stays on my TBR for now. This one, our friends from Frolics 8, is not the edition I collect, not a book that I've heard a lot about. Surprising me that I'm considering letting go of this one. Yep, that's going. That's going for now. All right, cooperate with me here. Matt Haig, The Comfort Book. I have a number of these that I kept on my TBR for a rainy day. And this book always makes the camera do weird things. But I think I'm ready to get rid of them. We're going to jump ahead here. Sneak these books out of here. Maybe. Oh yeah, magic trick. Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. Beautiful books, beautiful little books. Notes on a Nervous Planet. And The Comfort Book. Again, I kept these on here because I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from depression. So I figured in a time of crisis I could come and perhaps they would lift me out of it. But I've been feeling good recently. And this makes a beautiful little book bundle for my eBay store, that perhaps someone who needs them more than I do can enjoy them. So, letting go of these. The Crucible by Arthur Miller. To be honest, not thrilled about this book. I mean, I read Death of a Salesman and it was a great book. I hated it, but it was a great book, so maybe this will be the same. This will be a book that I kind of force myself to read because I know I will have enjoyed having read it. And it's in this beautiful Penguin Orange edition. I'm trying to read all of these. There's like 8 or 9, I believe, and I've read 3 or 4. So that's obviously staying on the TBR. Wow, we have gotten rid of a lot already. Le Guin, The Eye of the Heron. Haven't heard about it. Have no idea what it's about, but definitely staying on my TBR. Le Guin always stays. Although I can't say that because I let go of Lavinia. Tried to read it. Very fantasy. Didn't get into it. Bachman, My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You a Story. I do like this guy, but I think I've read enough where I get his deal. I know what he's going to try to tell me. I know the arc that his stories tend to go. So I think I'm letting go of this one. At the same time, it's nice to have some of this on your TBR, a very familiar story where you know how it's going to play out from the beginning. It's a comfort read. But a lot of pulpy vintage sci-fi is my comfort read, so do I need 2 flavors of comfort read on my TBR? I say no. Goodbye. The Catcher in the Rye. I read this a long time ago. I remember loving it. I have very fond memories of it. Does that mean that I should read it again? Probably not, but I kind of want to at the same time. Maybe not. Maybe that's a bad idea. Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. Big Neil Gaiman fan, always want something of his on my TBR. That stays. What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson. No idea what this is about, but I saw the guy's name at the Goodwill. I picked it up. What happens to us after we die? Okay, good question. Richard Matheson's powerful tale of life and love after death was the basis for the Oscar-winning film starring Robin Williams. What Oscar-winning film? Goodwill Hunting. That sounds like a good read. That sounds like something I'd like. Certainly not a comfort read, but that will stay on the TBR for now. Dogs of War by Tchaikovsky. Having just come off of Tchaikovsky, I'm not thrilled to jump back in. This is like new, so it would sell well on the eBay store. And you know what? I actually have a different Tchaikovsky that I'm much more excited to read on here, The Doors of Eden. It has been on here for a while, but I think it takes some time to get in the mood for one of these chunkers. I read Children of Time absolute all-time favorite on the top 10 list. I read Children of Ruin, not so much, but still a great read. Even if Doors of Eden continues that trend, it's still going to be a good read. So that stays on there. Dracula, it's on here getting primed for Halloween, for October. Definitely stays on here. I read Frankenstein last October, really liked it. The perfect mood book, the perfect season for the perfect book. Hoping Dracula follows that up. That's staying. The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I read Station 11. It was confusing, but I liked it. I read her latest book, which I loved. And if I did love it, then I would remember what the title was, but I don't. Oh, Sea of Tranquility. It came to me. Sea of Tranquility. So I want to keep another of hers on my TBR. Excited to read more of hers. And I haven't really been thinking about what I want to read next. This one's not really appealing to me. I think as of right now, get organized here, I want to read this, The Futurological Congress by Lem. But let's see what else we got. Cemetery World by Clifford D. Simak. I've had a few people tell me a few different things about this book, but I like Simak. He has been hit or miss for me in the past. This is a nice looking book though. Maybe it's just the plastic cover that makes it nice and shiny. That's going to stay in my TBR unless another Simak rises up to challenge it. I don't know why this is on my TBR because I just read this recently. Very depressing book. It was good. One of those where I'm glad I have read it, but I didn't enjoy reading it. This will go right to the eBay store because this sticker from the Hemingway house in Key West gives it some value. It was bought in, I don't know if it's his birthplace, but it is where he lived the majority of his life. But goodbye. Kurt Vonnegut, Armageddon in retrospect. Haven't heard of it, probably not his best, but I can't take Vonnegut off my TBR. So that stays, as does Slapstick by Vonnegut. The Changeling by Victor Lavelle. This was gifted to me by a viewer, a very new book. I'm not sure it's science fiction, but I like to keep some newer stuff on my TBR. I don't come across it very often because when I'm in bookstores, I'm generally looking at older science fiction, but I like to keep my horizons broadened, so that will stay on my TBR. Next up, The Rum Diary by Hunter S. Thompson. I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I enjoyed it. It was bizarre, but it flowed really well somehow. So I wanted to read more, and this was the first book I kind of saw of his. This could easily be a cut, but you know, I've made a lot of cuts already, and I want some more non-science fiction on this TBR. So that will stay for now. Recursion by Blake Crouch. I did like Dark Matter. I do like Andy Weir, even though I know he's not very well received here. If you're going to the beach, you know, you just want something easy breezy. I gotta have something for that. Silverberg. This is 3 books. The Book of Skulls, which I've read, which was good. Night Wings, which I haven't heard of. And the one I really want to read, Dying Inside, which is why this is on my TBR in the first place. Having this makes me feel better about cutting those other Silverbergs. I'll probably just read both of these, even though I know nothing about Night Wings, and that way this can ascend to my have-read bookshelf upstairs, to the promised land. Gotta have some Hemingway to have and have not. Haven't heard of it. I don't know if I like Hemingway or not. At the beginning of the book, I think I do, but then by the end, I'm really tired of it. Not sure if that's valid or not, but this will stay on the TBR. I want something classic like that, although I do have Crime and Punishment, but maybe something classic American. Some Young, The Undiscovered Self. I'm very interested in this guy after having read the Deptford Trilogy by Robertson Davies, which is based on his teachings. Seems like I would get a lot out of it, and I think this is his foundational work. This is his major thing that he's known for, which is very prevalent in the Manticore. The undiscovered self is finding the undeveloped parts of yourself, even though generally thinking about those parts and looking at those parts triggers anxiety and all these negative things, which keeps you from developing it. So that's my basic understanding of it. Not sure when I'll be in the mood to read something like that. Maybe soon, maybe not. I put one of these NYRBs on here. because I wanted to be a fancy boy and read one, but it's sat on here for a while. I'm not sure I'll get to it. This is a memoir, and the back sounded interesting because he compares childhood to accumulating different germs and diseases that have lasting impact, which not the most positive way to think of childhood, but I can see it, it makes sense, and it sounds like a viewpoint that I would enjoy, that a cynical part of me would enjoy. Not the best book to read just before I try and raise my first child. Not the best ideas to put in my head. A Philosophy of Walking. My mom gifted me this book a little while ago. I imagine it talks a lot about mindfulness, a lot about forest bathing, quotes from different nature writers talking about the necessity of having a walk in the woods and clearing your mind, and perhaps some science articles about the health benefits of that, which would definitely serve as an inspiration for me to do it more, although I do go outside regularly. I forest bathe regularly. That stays. All right, now we got this big stack of sci-fi, and the bottom book has stuck to the shelf. Don't worry, it's just Ray Bradbury short stories, nothing very exciting. But I keep this here because I have most of the other books in this edition, and they look nice on a shelf. So I would like to read this book. Probably will be one where I go through and I read 3 or 4 of the stories that catch my attention, and then I claim to have read the whole thing. Don't sue me, but Ray Bradbury can get a little too fancy for me. That does stay, though. What else we got? We got more Lem. More tales from Pierrot the Pilot. I heard that this wasn't the best place to start, and I have been holding on to it just because I want to read something by this guy, but now I have something a little more exciting, so this can go. Robert Silverberg, Recalled to Life. This is an absolutely beautiful book. This is my ideal version of a vintage science fiction paperback. The purple and the green, my favorite combination, the pink letters up there. I don't know what this is about. I've never read the back of this book, but I definitely want to read it. That stays for sure. The Tomorrow People by Judith Merrill. I was at a bookstore that was having a big sale, and I picked up a bunch of vintage science fiction that I'd never heard of before to maybe try and find some undiscovered gem. And I read a few of those already, and none of them were any good. I imagine this is going to be similar. This will be the representation for undiscovered, unknown, haven't heard anything about it, probably bad, but maybe not book. Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein. I have a feeling if I'm going to like any of this guy's books, it's probably going to be this one. I did like Starship Troopers, but I absolutely hated Moon is a Harsh Mistress. This is one I probably have to keep, but I don't see myself reading it anytime soon, which makes me think I shouldn't keep it. Maybe it just stays for now. T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. This has been on here for a little while. Maybe I'll get into a poetry mood soon. I got to be prepared for the poetry mood. So that will stay. And here's another one of those Ray Bradbury editions that I would like to keep and read just to display them. Actually, I should read this now. I was saving this for summer. A lot of people have fond memories of this book. I don't think it's science fiction. It's just about looking back on fond summertime childhood memories. This book actually, I think, is going to be what I read. I don't want to read the book where the guy talks about his childhood like a disease. I'd rather read this one where Ray Bradbury talks about all the nostalgic, beautiful memories of childhood. Yeah, this has suddenly skyrocketed to the top of the list of books I want to read. And the summer is unfortunately fading, so I don't have much time left. Oh, The Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I've tried a few times. I should probably just take this off my TBR and give up on it. And you know what? I will. It's time. Sorry, Edgar Rice Burroughs. We by that Russian guy. I'm not ready for this book right now. I have a good feeling it's going to be clunky, it's going to be slow, and it's going to be strange. But it's a foundational piece of science fiction that I would love to have read. This will stay on my TBR as a educational resource for when I have the capacity and the patience for that. Pretty nice edition too. Beautiful book. Stays on, stays on. The Masks of Time by Robert Silverberg. Does my TBR have space for 2 separate Silverberg books? I think it does, mostly because this is an edition of Silverberg's work that I have a few copies of and have read a few copies of, so it will look nice on the shelf if and when I do read it. This is what my copy of Thorns looked like. So, you got lucky there. Star Maker by Olaf Stapleton. Bookpilled read this one, really piqued my interest. I have a feeling that I will love it, but one that seems to require a lot of patience. For some reason, I think this is a winter read, so it stays on my TBR until then. I also would love to collect all of these Penguin sci-fi editions. This is the only one I've ever seen, but as you can tell, I collect Penguin books, so it makes sense that I would collect Penguin science fiction books. That is a definite stay. First to the Stars by Rex Gordon. I guess this would be another scraping the bottom of the barrel, never heard of it, perhaps an undiscovered gem. But looking at this front cover, I have a feeling I know exactly what this book is going to be like. So do I really need to read it? No. But I just love the cliche aspect of this cover. Really encapsulates pulpy vintage science fiction. So what do I do with it? I put it on my TBO, my To Be Ogled, which is right over here off camera. You can't see it. It's got all my ace doubles on it. Oh, and that reminds me, I actually need to add a book. I was storing it over here. Dune Messiah. If you saw my review of Dune, I really did like it, and next one needs to be on the TBR. So, didn't want to add books, but here we go. Out of the Deeps by John Wyndham. I read Day of the Chrysalids recently, loved it. This book claims to be not only better than Day of the Chrysalids, but more exciting. And I doubt that. And I take offense to you enticing me with these false promises. So, goodbye. A Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. This book is falling apart. It was gone through by a number of different creepy crawlers, so probably don't want it on my shelf. It was kind of just a novelty piece. I know it's not science fiction, but I love Richard Matheson as The Shrinking Man, so when I see his name on a book, I generally buy it, but I'm never going to read this book. And its condition doesn't lead it to saleability, so that will leave my house. Behold the Man by Michael Moorcock. Was excited to find this because I've wanted to read something of Moorcock and not a fantasy epic. And when I showed this in a book haul, someone said this was one of his best works. So this definitely stays. Excited to read that one. Village of the Damned by John Wyndham, which makes me feel better about leaving that other book behind. I've heard really good things about this one. I like John Wyndham. I want to read something else of his. So this is probably the place to go after Day of the Chrysalids. Oh, what is this? Based on the novel by John Wyndham, The Midwich Cuckoos. That's what I thought this was. What is Village of the Damned then? John Wyndham didn't write it? Oh, by John Wyndham, formerly The Midwich Cuckoos. I'm not sure. I guess I'll have to do some research on that. Stays on the TBR for now. Foundation by Isaac Asimov. This was a near cut last time I did a TBR video. I tried to read it a long time ago. I got about a quarter way through and then I gave up. It's classic Asimov. It's really slow and kind of boring, but then if you get past all that, he throws some really amazing ideas at you. So you need some patience. I gotta keep this on my TBR. It's tough. I want to take it off because I don't see myself reading it anytime soon, but this is a book. This is a series that I want to have read in the near future. And lastly, we got All the Traps of Earth and Other Stories by Clifford D. Simak. I have Cemetery World by Simak already, so I'm gonna keep that one. And I'm going to leave this one behind. Let's put these in, see what it looks like. All right, there we go. Beautiful. And the best part is we have more room to add books to my TBR. As you know, as you may not know, I'm having my first child at the end of the year. So I've been going through all my closets. I've been trying to get rid of everything I possibly can because the influx of stuff has already begun. And I'm trying to acquire as much empty space in this house as I can. I've been saying I'm trying to find room to grow, which I know sounds kind of cheesy, but it is true. That is what I'm trying to do. Trying to not have every shelf be packed with stuff, because then you're stuck with the stuff you have. You have to have empty space in a shelf to add new books, to keep your tastes and interests evolving. Anyways, next book I'm going to read, Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. Glad I went through all these books because I forgot that I was going to read this summer, and reading the back of it, I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what I need right now. I get down on Bradbury sometimes because he's a little too fancy, a little too whimsical, a little too optimistic maybe. I think he's naive or something, but you know, a lot of times in life you need an influx of that. So thank you, Ray Bradbury. Look for that review video coming fairly soon. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.